The bridge of the Earth Defense Force vessel Valiant was quiet except for the soft beeping of computers. Captain Jake Morrison sat in his command chair, reading through daily reports. His crew had been on patrol for 3 weeks now and nothing unusual had happened. Space was big and empty, and most days were boring. Lieutenant Commander Lisa Grant was watching the communications panel when something strange appeared on her screen. She leaned forward, her eyes narrowing as she tried to understand what she was seeing. The signal was weak and broken, coming from very far away. "Captain, I'm picking up something odd," Lisa said. "It looks like a distress call, but it's not in any language I recognize." Jake stood up and walked over to her station. He looked at the screen and saw the strange patterns of the signal. "Run it through the translation computer. Let's see what we've got." The ship's artificial intelligence went to work. Numbers and symbols flashed across the screen. After a few seconds, text began to appear in English. Jake read it carefully and his expression changed from curious to serious. The message was from a species called the Venari. They were traders who traveled between different star systems. Their ship had been attacked by something called the Krolathi swarm. The Venari were damaged and couldn't escape. They were asking for help from anyone who could hear them. But there was more to the message. The Venari had done their research before sending the signal. They had found information about Earth and humans. They knew that humans came from a dangerous planet. They knew that other alien species were afraid of humans. They knew that humans were classified as predators, as hunters, as something dangerous. The Venari message said they understood the risk of contacting humans. They knew that asking predators for help might be a mistake. But they had no choice. The Krolathi were hunting them, and only another predator species might be strong enough to help. Jake read the message twice. He turned to his tactical officer, Commander Greg Palmer. "How far away are they?" Greg checked his instruments. "About 3 days at maximum speed, sir. But if we go that fast, we'll use a lot of fuel." "We'll worry about fuel later," Jake said. He looked around at his crew. They were all watching him, waiting for orders. "Change course. Head for those coordinates. And send a message back to Earth Command. Tell them what we found." Lisa worked quickly at her station. Within minutes, the Valiant turned and began moving toward the Venari ship. The engines hummed louder as the ship picked up speed. Jake went back to his command chair and opened a secure channel to Earth. He recorded a message for Admiral Kate Sullivan, explaining the situation. He told her about the distress call and his decision to respond. He sent the message and waited. The reply came faster than he expected. Admiral Sullivan's face appeared on his screen. She looked tired but alert. "Captain Morrison, I've reviewed your report. I'm authorizing additional support. The first rapid response fleet will launch within the hour. 7 ships total, including yours. You'll have backup." "Thank you, Admiral," Jake said. "What about the Galactic Assembly? Do they know about this?" Kate shook her head. "We've never had official contact with them. As far as we know, they've been watching us from a distance. This might be our first real chance to show them who we are." After the call ended, Jake thought about what the Admiral had said. Humanity had known about alien life for 5 years now. Earth's telescopes had detected artificial signals from space. Scientists had figured out that there was a big community of alien species out there, trading and talking to each other. But none of them had contacted Earth directly. The reason was fear. Somehow the aliens had learned about Earth and decided that humans were too dangerous to approach. They had put Earth on a watch list and stayed away. Lieutenant Amy Carter, the ship's science officer, came to the bridge with a datapad. She was young but smart, always reading and learning everything she could about alien species. "Captain, I've been looking at what we know about the Galactic Assembly," Amy said. "There are some interesting patterns. Every species we've identified evolved on planets much easier than Earth. Lower gravity, calmer weather, fewer predators. They're not used to fighting." "And the Krolathi?" Jake asked. Amy's expression became worried. "That's the scary part. The Krolathi seem to be the first real predator species the Assembly has encountered. From what little information we have, the Krolathi hunt in groups. They're smart, fast, and aggressive. The Assembly species don't know how to fight them, so they just run away." Jake nodded slowly. He was starting to understand the situation better. The Galactic Assembly was like a neighborhood where everyone was peaceful and friendly. Then a wolf pack moved in and nobody knew what to do. "But we know how to deal with predators," Greg said from his station. "We've been doing it for thousands of years." "Exactly," Jake said. The Venari figured that out. They're betting that we know how to fight because we come from a world where everything wants to kill us. Lisa looked up from her communications panel. Is that true, sir? Is Earth really that dangerous compared to other planets? Amy answered before Jake could. Yes, Earth has gravity that would crush most alien species. Our air has more oxygen than they can handle. We have diseases and bacteria that would kill them in hours. And we have predators everywhere. Not just in the wild, but in our cities too. We keep them as pets. The crew was quiet for a moment, thinking about what that meant. They had grown up on Earth, so everything seemed normal to them. But to aliens from safer worlds, Earth would look like a nightmare planet. 3 days until we reach the Venari ship, Greg said, breaking the silence. We should prepare for combat. If the Krolathi are still there, we'll need to be ready. Jake agreed. He ordered the crew to battle stations and began planning their approach. They didn't know much about Krolathi weapons or tactics, but they would figure it out. As the Valiant raced through space toward the distant distress signal, Jake thought about what would happen next. Humanity was about to meet other intelligent species for the first time. Not in a peaceful diplomatic meeting, but in a battle. The galaxy was afraid of humans because they thought humans were dangerous. Jake hoped that fear was justified, because they were about to need every advantage they had. The Valiant traveled through space at full speed for 2 days. During that time, the crew prepared for whatever they might find. Jake Morrison drilled his people constantly, running combat simulations and checking every system on the ship twice. On the morning of the 3rd day, Lieutenant Amy Carter called a meeting in the briefing room. She had spent the entire journey studying everything Earth knew about the Galactic Assembly and the Krolathi swarm. Now she was ready to share what she had learned. Jake arrived with his senior officers. Lisa Grant sat on his right, Greg Palmer on his left. Lieutenant Kevin Ross, the weapons officer, took a seat near the front. Commander Danny Price, who handled strategy and planning, sat in the back with his computer. Amy stood at the front of the room with a large screen behind her. She looked nervous but determined. I know we're all wondering what we're flying into, she began. So I've put together everything we know about the aliens we might meet. She pressed a button and an image appeared on the screen. It showed a map of the galaxy with hundreds of dots marking different star systems. This is the Galactic Assembly. 47 different species all living in this region of space. They trade with each other, share technology, and generally get along. Sounds nice, Kevin said. What's the problem? Amy changed the image. Now the screen showed biological data about various alien species. The problem is that every single one of these species evolved as prey animals. Look at these statistics. Average gravity on their home worlds is between 0.4 and 0.7 Earth standard. That means their bones are lighter, their muscles weaker. They can't handle stress the way we can. She brought up more data. Their immune systems are much simpler than ours. They evolved on worlds with less biological diversity, so they never had to fight off thousands of different diseases. A common cold could kill some of these species? Greg leaned forward, studying the numbers. So they're fragile. That explains why they're afraid of us. It's more than that, Amy continued. Their psychology is different too. Every one of these species evolved by running away from danger, not fighting it. They're smart, they're peaceful, and they're good at trading and diplomacy. But when something threatens them, their instinct is to hide or negotiate, not to attack. Danny spoke up from the back. What about their weapons? They must have some way to defend themselves. Amy nodded. They do, but it's mostly defensive technology. Strong shields, fast engines, stealth systems. They're good at not being seen and not getting hit. But their actual weapons are weak by our standards. They never needed to develop serious military technology because everyone in the assembly thinks the same way. Until the Krolathi showed up, Lisa said quietly. Exactly, Amy changed the image again. This time the screen showed something that looked like a cross between a wolf and an insect. It was dark and sleek with multiple eyes and sharp claws. This is a Krolathi, based on what little information we could gather. They appeared on the edge of assembly space about 2 years ago. Nobody knows where they came from. The room was silent as everyone stared at the image. The creature looked dangerous even in a picture. The Krolathi hunt in packs, Amy explained. They're fast, smart, and aggressive. They attack assembly ships and colonies, taking whatever they want. Sometimes they just destroy things for no clear reason. The assembly has tried negotiating with them, but the Krolathi don't seem interested in talking. How many battles has the assembly won against them? Jake asked. Amy's expression turned grim. None. 0. In 2 years and dozens of encounters, the Assembly has never successfully defended against a Kralathi attack. They always lose or barely escape. The officers looked at each other. Kevin whistled softly. That's bad. It gets worse, Amy said. The Assembly is starting to fall apart. Some species are abandoning their colonies and moving deeper into safe territory. Trade routes are collapsing. There's talk of the entire Assembly breaking up because nobody can protect anyone else. Danny stood up and walked to the front of the room. He looked at the data on the screen with his strategic mind working. Let me make sure I understand this. The Assembly is a civilization of prey species who never learned to fight. The Kralathi are predators who know exactly how to fight. And now a prey species is calling us for help because we're also predators. That's right, Amy said. And the Assembly is afraid of us because we come from Earth, which they think is a death world, Danny continued. Also correct. Danny turned to look at Jake. Captain, do you realize what this means? The Venari didn't just send us a distress call. They made a choice. They decided that humans were less dangerous than the Kralathi. We're the lesser evil. Jake thought about that for a moment. It was not exactly a compliment, but Danny was right. The Venari had looked at their options and decided to trust humanity. That took courage. Amy, why do they call Earth a death world? Lisa asked. Amy pulled up a comparison chart. Look at this. Earth has 1 full gravity. Most Assembly worlds have less than half that. Our atmosphere is 21% oxygen. Most of theirs is around 12 to 15%. Our temperature range is massive compared to theirs. We have active weather systems that would terrify them. Hurricanes, tornadoes, tsunamis, she continued. And then there's the biology. Earth has millions of species all competing with each other. Predators everywhere, poisonous plants and animals. Diseases that evolve faster than we can fight them. Most Assembly species evolved on worlds with maybe a few thousand species total. Earth has that many just in a single forest. So they think we're tough because we survived growing up on Earth, Greg said. More than that, Amy replied. They think we're dangerous because we didn't just survive, we thrived. Humans became the dominant species on a planet full of things trying to kill us. We did that by becoming better predators than anything else on Earth. Kevin raised his hand. I have a question. If we're such scary predators, why did the Venari think we would help them? Predators usually just take what they want, right? Amy smiled slightly. That's the interesting part. The Venari have been watching Earth for a while. They've studied our culture, our history, our behavior, and they noticed something that other Assembly species missed. What's that? Jake asked. Humans help each other, Amy said simply. We form groups, we protect the weak, we have rules about fairness and justice. Yes, we're predators. Yes, we're dangerous. But we're also social. We care about things beyond just survival. The Venari gambled that our social instincts would be stronger than our predatory instincts. The room was quiet as everyone absorbed this information. Jake stood up and walked to the front of the room, standing next to Amy. He looked at his officers, seeing the determination in their faces. So here's where we are, Jake said. In a few hours, we're going to drop out of faster-than-light travel near a damaged alien ship. That ship is probably being hunted by other aliens who want to kill everyone on board. We're going to stop that from happening. The Galactic Assembly is watching us even if they won't admit it, he continued. This is humanity's first real contact with other intelligent species. What we do in the next few hours will determine how the galaxy sees us forever. We can prove that we're the monsters they fear, or we can prove that we're something better. Lisa stood up. We're going to help them. That's what we do. The other officers nodded in agreement. Jake felt pride in his crew. They understood what was at stake. Get to your stations, Jake ordered. Battle readiness in 1 hour. Greg, I want firing solutions ready the moment we see the Kralathi. Kevin, make sure every weapon system is perfect. Lisa, keep all channels open. If the Venari or the Kralathi try to communicate, I want to know immediately. The officers left to prepare. Amy stayed behind for a moment. Captain, do you think we can win? Jake smiled.
Amy, humans have been fighting predators since we lived in caves.
We'll figure it out. The Valiant dropped out of faster-than-light travel exactly where the Venari distress signal had originated. The transition was smooth, and within seconds, the ship's sensors began scanning the area. Contact, Greg Palmer announced from the tactical station. I've got the Venari ship. It's damaged but still intact, and I'm reading multiple other vessels surrounding it. Jake leaned forward in his command chair. Show me. The main view screen lit up with an image that made the bridge crew go silent. The Venari trading ship was small and round, with hull breaches visible even from this distance. Surrounding it were 12 ships that looked nothing like anything humans had built. They were dark and organic-looking, with curved surfaces that seemed to flow like liquid. They moved in perfect formation, circling the damaged Venari vessel like sharks around wounded prey. "Those are the Kralathi ships," Amy said quietly. They matched the descriptions from the assembly databases. Lisa worked at her communications panel. "The Venari ship is still broadcasting their distress signal. I'm also picking up communications between the Kralathi vessels, but I can't translate it. It's not mathematical like the Venari language." "How long until the rest of our fleet arrives?" Jake asked. 2 hours, sir," Greg replied. "We're on our own until then." Jake studied the tactical display. 12 enemy ships against 1. Not great odds, but he had faced worse in simulations. The question was whether the simulations had prepared them for real aliens with unknown weapons. "Kevin, what do your scans tell you about those Kralathi ships?" Jake asked his weapons officer. Kevin Ross was bent over his console, analyzing every detail he could gather. "They're weird, Captain. I'm not reading any heavy armor or shield generators. Their hulls are tough but not military grade. They seem to rely on speed and maneuverability instead of defense. Weapons. That's the strange part. I'm seeing organic launchers of some kind. Best guess is they fire biological projectiles. Maybe acid or poison. Against the assembly ships with their weak hulls, that would be devastating. Against our armor, I don't know." Danny Price spoke up from his station. "Captain, look at how they're moving. See that pattern? They're hunting, taking turns making attack runs on the Venari ship, wearing it down. It's efficient but slow. They're enjoying this." Jake felt a cold anger building in his chest. The Kralathi were playing with their prey, dragging out the kill. On Earth, predators did that sometimes, but humans had learned long ago that cruelty served no purpose. These aliens were hurting the Venari for entertainment. "Open a wide band channel," Jake ordered. "All frequencies. I want everyone to hear this." Lisa worked quickly. "Channel open, sir." Jake spoke clearly and calmly. "Kralathi vessels, this is Captain Jake Morrison of the Earth Defense Force ship Valiant. You are attacking a civilian vessel that has requested our protection. Cease your attack immediately and withdraw from this area. This is your only warning." The bridge crew waited. For several long seconds there was no response. Then 6 of the Kralathi ships broke formation. They turned away from the Venari vessel and accelerated toward the Valiant at incredible speed. "They're charging us," Greg said. "Weapons hot. They're firing." On the screen, Jake saw streams of something dark shooting from the Kralathi ships toward the Valiant. The projectiles moved fast, but not impossibly so. "Evasive maneuvers," Jake ordered. "Kevin, return fire when ready." The Valiant turned smoothly, and the first wave of Kralathi projectiles sailed past harmlessly. But the alien ships adjusted their aim, firing again and again as they closed the distance. "Point defense systems engaging," Kevin announced. The Valiant's automated guns came to life, tracking and destroying the incoming projectiles. Most of them were stopped, but a few got through and hit the ship's hull. "Minor hull damage on Deck 7, Lisa reported. "That stuff is some kind of acid. It's eating through the outer armor, but the inner hull is holding." "Interesting," Jake said. Against the thin hulls of assembly ships, those acid weapons would punch right through. Against human military armor, designed to survive explosions and extreme temperatures, the acid was merely annoying. "Captain, we're in optimal firing range," Kevin said. "Requesting permission to engage." Jake watched the Kralathi ships closing in. They were fast and they moved well together, but they were being reckless. They thought the Valiant would run or hide like an assembly ship. They had no idea what human weapons could do. "Fire," Jake said simply. The Valiant's main railgun spoke. It was a simple weapon, really. Magnetic acceleration pushed a solid tungsten slug to a significant fraction of light speed. When it hit something, the kinetic energy was devastating. The first Kralathi ship never had a chance to evade. The tungsten slug passed through it like it was not even there. The ship simply came apart, turning into an expanding cloud of debris and frozen atmosphere. "Target destroyed," Kevin reported with satisfaction. Reloading, firing again. 2 more shots, 2 more Kralathi ships gone. The surviving 3 aliens suddenly changed their behavior. They scattered, breaking formation and trying to dodge. But human targeting computers were very good at predicting movement. Kevin's next shot clipped one of the fleeing ships, spinning it out of control. "Missiles away," Kevin said. He had launched 2 guided missiles at the damaged Kralathi ship. The missiles tracked their target with patient precision, adjusted for its desperate maneuvers, and struck it from 2 different angles. The explosion was brief and bright. That left 2 of the original 6 attackers. They had finally realized they were in serious danger. Both ships turned and accelerated away from the Valiant at maximum speed. "Let them go," Jake ordered. "Focus on the other 6 near the Venari ship." But the remaining Kralathi ships had seen what happened to their companions. Instead of attacking individually, all 6 moved together in a tight formation. They charged the Valiant as a group, firing their acid weapons in a concentrated barrage. "They're trying to overwhelm our point defense," Greg observed. "Smart. Rotate the ship," Jake ordered. "Give them a smaller target profile. Kevin, switch to the secondary railguns. Rapid fire pattern." The Valiant spun on its axis, presenting its narrow edge to the incoming Kralathi. At the same time, smaller railguns mounted along the ship's hull began firing in sequence. The effect was like a machine gun, sending tungsten projectiles out in a steady stream. The Kralathi formation broke apart immediately. 2 ships were hit and destroyed before they could react. The others scattered, trying to use their speed advantage to dodge the incoming fire. "They're fast," Kevin muttered, adjusting his aim. But not that fast. Another Kralathi ship exploded. Then another. The last 2 survivors finally broke off their attack and fled at maximum speed, following their earlier companions. The entire battle had lasted less than 8 minutes. "Cease fire," Jake ordered. "Damage report." Lisa checked her console. "Minor hull damage in 3 locations. Nothing serious. All systems operational. No casualties." Greg brought up a tactical summary. 12 Kralathi ships engaged. 8 destroyed, 4 retreated. The Venari ship is still intact. Jake stood up from his command chair. He looked around at his crew and saw a mixture of excitement, relief, and pride on their faces. They had just won humanity's first space battle against an alien species. "Good work, everyone," Jake said. "Lisa, send a message to the Venari ship. Tell them we're here to help. Amy, you're with me. We're going to meet our new friends." Amy looked nervous but nodded. "Yes, sir." As Jake headed toward the shuttle bay, he thought about what had just happened. The Kralathi had been dominant in this region of space because they were the only predators. They had never faced another species that knew how to hunt, how to fight, how to kill efficiently. Now they had. And Jake suspected the galaxy was about to change in ways nobody expected. On the view screen, the damaged Venari ship waited silently. Soon, humans and aliens would meet face to face for the first time. Jake hoped they were ready for each other. Lieutenant Amy Carter checked her environment suit one more time before entering the shuttle. The suit was bulky and uncomfortable, but necessary. She had no idea what the atmosphere would be like on the Venari ship, or what kinds of bacteria might be present. Captain Jake Morrison was already aboard the shuttle, along with 4 Marines and a medical team. The Marines were fully armed, just in case, but Jake had ordered them to keep their weapons lowered. They were here to help, not to threaten. "Everyone ready?" Jake asked. When he received confirmation from all team members, he signaled the pilot. "Take us over." The shuttle detached from the Valiant and flew smoothly across the empty space between the 2 ships. Through the window, Amy could see the Venari vessel up close for the first time. It was smaller than she expected, maybe a third the size of the Valiant. The hull was smooth and pale, with flowing curves that reminded her of seashells. Several large holes showed where the Kralathi weapons had broken through. "They really did a number on this ship," one of the Marines said quietly. The shuttle approached a docking port that appeared undamaged. The pilot lined up carefully and connected with a soft thump. After a moment, the airlock light turned green. "Good seal," the pilot reported. "Atmosphere on the other side is breathable for them, but not for us. Keep your suits on." Jake was the first through the airlock, followed by Amy and the rest of the team. They stepped into a corridor that was dimly lit and smaller than human standard. Jake had to duck his head slightly to avoid hitting the ceiling. A group of aliens was waiting for them. Amy felt her breath catch as she got her first real look at the Venari. They were about 4 feet tall with 6 limbs. 4 of the limbs seemed to be used for walking, while the upper 2 were more like arms. Their bodies were covered in smooth, pale skin with patterns of darker colors. Large compound eyes dominated their faces, and they had small mouths that moved in strange ways. The Venari were clearly frightened. They pressed themselves against the walls of the corridor. making themselves as small as possible. Their eyes tracked every movement the humans made. One of them stepped forward, moving with a strange hopping gait. It wore something that looked like a vest with electronic equipment attached. When it spoke, a device on the vest translated its words into English. "You are the humans from Earth. You are the ones called Deathworlders." The translation was mechanical but clear. "I'm Captain Jake Morrison," Jake said slowly and clearly. "This is Lieutenant Amy Carter and our medical team. We received your distress signal and came to help." The Venari leader, if that's what it was, seemed to study them carefully. Its eyes moved independently, looking at different parts of the human group at once. "I am Then, keeper of routes for this vessel. You destroyed the Krolathi ships. We watched. No assembly species has ever done this." "The Krolathi won't bother you anymore," Jake said. "At least not today. But your ship is damaged. We brought engineers and medical personnel. With your permission, we'd like to help with repairs." Then made a gesture with its upper limbs that the translation device interpreted as surprise. "You wish to help repair our ship? Why? What payment do you require?" Amy saw Jake pause for a moment. She understood his confusion. The Venari was asking about payment as if helping people in danger had a price. "We don't want payment," Jake said. "You asked for help. We're giving it. That's what we do." The other Venari made chittering sounds that the translator couldn't interpret, then turned to them and seemed to have a quick conversation. Then it turned back to the humans. "This concept is difficult for us to understand," Then said. "In the assembly, all actions have agreed exchange value. Species help each other through formal contracts and trade agreements. You risk your ships and your lives for strangers with no promise of return. This is not logical." Amy stepped forward. "May I explain, Captain?" Jake nodded and Amy addressed Then directly. "In human culture, we have something we call empathy. When we see someone suffering, we want to help them. It makes us feel good to reduce suffering, even if there's no benefit to us. Some of our oldest stories are about helping others who can't help themselves." Then's eyes focused on Amy. "This is because you are social predators. You hunt in packs and must cooperate to survive. Your empathy is a survival adaptation." "Maybe," Amy admitted, "but it's still real. We really do want to help you." Then was quiet for a moment. Then it made a decision. "Very well. Your engineers may examine our ship. Our injured are in the medical bay. Please follow me." As they walked through the corridors of the Venari ship, Amy noticed how different everything was. The gravity was much lower than Earth standard, maybe a third of what she was used to. Every step made her feel like she might float away. The ship was also warmer than she expected, and the air had a strange, sweet smell even through her suit's filters. They passed several other Venari crew members. All of them stopped and stared at the humans. Amy tried to smile at them, but then remembered they probably couldn't see human expressions through the helmet. The medical bay was a small room with strange equipment that Amy didn't recognize. 3 Venari were lying on platforms, clearly injured. One of them had burns across its body. Another had a limb that looked broken. The third was barely moving. "The Krolathi acid burns tissue," Then explained. "We have medicines, but they work slowly. Many will die from their injuries." The human medical team immediately went to work. They had brought universal trauma equipment designed to stabilize any kind of injury. While they worked, Jake and Amy followed Then to what appeared to be the ship's bridge. It was different from the Valiant's bridge. Instead of separate stations, everything seemed to flow together. Multiple Venari worked at consoles that projected holographic displays. When the humans entered, all work stopped. Everyone stared, then moved to a central console and brought up a display. It showed a map of the surrounding space with various symbols that Amy didn't understand at first. Then she realized what she was looking at. "This is a map of Krolathi attacks," Then said. "Red symbols are destroyed ships. Yellow symbols are colonies that were abandoned. Blue symbols are active hunting packs. There are 43 Krolathi packs operating in this region of space." Jake studied the map carefully. "How long has this been going on?" 2 cycles. In your time measurement, approximately 2 of your years. The assembly has lost 17 colonies and hundreds of ships. Thousands of individuals have died. We cannot stop them. "What has the assembly tried?" Amy asked. Then touched the display and new information appeared. "Diplomacy failed. The Krolathi do not negotiate. We tried hiding, but they find us. We tried running, but they are faster. We tried fighting, but our weapons are too weak and our tactics too slow. Every engagement ends in defeat. Why didn't you contact us sooner?" Jake asked. Earth has had radio signals for over 100 years. You must have known we existed. Then turned all its eyes toward Jake. We knew. The Assembly has been watching your world for 80 of your years. When we first detected your signals, we were curious. Then we sent probes to study you. What we found terrified us. Then pulled up another display. This one showed images of Earth, cities, oceans, forests. And then it showed data that Amy recognized from her earlier briefing. Gravity measurements, atmospheric composition, biodiversity reports. Your planet is classified as Category 5 hazardous, Then said. Almost everything about your world would kill us. The gravity would crush our bodies. The oxygen would poison our blood. The bacteria would infect us in minutes. The temperature variations would freeze or boil us. Your oceans are acidic. Your weather is violent. Your sun radiation is intense. And then we watched how you lived on this terrible world, Then continued. You built cities. You explored. You played sports where you deliberately hurt each other for entertainment. You kept other predators as companions in your homes. You climbed mountains and dove into oceans and flew through your violent atmosphere for fun. You seemed to love danger. Amy felt a strange mix of emotions. Pride that humans were so tough. Sadness that it made other species afraid. The Assembly created a policy, Then said. Watch Earth but do not contact. If humans ever achieved space travel, they were to be avoided. You were classified as extremely dangerous. Some species argued you should be eliminated before you left your planet. Others argued you might be useful allies. The debate continued for decades. Then the Kralathi came, Jake said. Yes, and suddenly the dangerous humans seemed less frightening than the Kralathi. I studied your species for 2 years. I learned your languages. I watched your entertainment programs and read your history files. I saw violence, yes, but I also saw something else. What did you see? Amy asked softly. I saw you protect each other, Then said. I saw you create rules about fairness and justice. I saw you care for your weak and injured instead of abandoning them. I saw you make art about sacrifice and honor. You are predators, yes, but you are predators with morality. So I made a choice. When the Kralathi found my ship, I sent the distress signal to the border of human space. I gambled that you would help us instead of harm us. Jake was quiet for a long moment. Then he extended his hand toward Then. The Venari looked at the gesture with confusion. It's called a handshake. The human engineers worked on the Venari ship for 6 hours. They patched the hull breaches, repaired damaged systems, and got the engines working again. The Venari crew watched in amazement as the humans moved efficiently through tasks that would have taken assembly engineers days to complete. Back on the Valiant, Captain Jake Morrison sat in his ready room with a difficult decision ahead of him. Commander Danny Price stood on one side of his desk. Lieutenant Commander Lisa Grant stood on the other. They had been arguing for 20 minutes. Earth Command ordered us to return home, Lisa said firmly. We've completed our mission. The Venari ship is safe. Now we should go back and let the diplomats handle first contact properly. Look at this, Danny said, pulling up a star map on Jake's desk display. These are the Kralathi hunting packs that Then showed us. There are 3 more assembly civilian ships in their projected hunting zones. If we leave now, those ships will be destroyed. More aliens will die. That's not our responsibility, Lisa argued. We're one ship, Danny. One ship can't protect an entire region of space. Actually, we're 7 ships now, Danny replied. The rest of the first rapid response fleet arrived an hour ago. That's 7 warships specifically designed for combat. Against an enemy with no real armor or shields, we could make a real difference. Jake listened to both arguments carefully. Lisa was right that Earth Command had ordered them home. Following orders was important. But Danny was also right that more civilians would die if the humans left. What do you think, Captain? Lisa asked. Before Jake could answer, Amy Carter knocked on the door. She entered carrying a data pad and looking troubled. Sir, you need to see this. Then just gave me access to the Assembly's database on the Kralathi conflict. The situation is worse than we thought. She handed Jake the data pad. He read through it quickly and his expression grew dark. How many? Over 12,000 Assembly citizens dead in the past 2 years, Amy said. 17 colonies abandoned. The economy is starting to collapse because trade routes are too dangerous. Some species are talking about leaving the Assembly entirely and fleeing to the far side of the galaxy. Danny leaned over to look at the data. It's a complete breakdown of their civilization. The Kralathi are winning not just battles but the entire war. What about assembly military forces? Jake asked. They must have some kind of fleet. Amy shook her head. That's the problem. They don't really have a military in the way we understand it. The assembly was formed for trade and cooperation, not defense. Each species has some patrol ships to deal with pirates or accidents, but nothing designed for real combat. When the Krolathi appeared, the assembly tried to organize a combined defense force, but it failed completely. Why did it fail? Lisa asked. Because none of them know how to fight, Amy explained. Their patrol ships are designed to be fast and have good sensors. They can run away or call for help. But in actual combat, they lose every time. The assembly tried training programs, but you can't teach predator tactics to prey species. It goes against everything in their nature. Jake stood up and walked to the window of his ready room. He could see the damaged Venari ship in the distance, with human engineers still working on the exterior repairs. Beyond that was empty space, but he knew that space was filled with danger. The Venari called us because they were desperate, Jake said slowly. They knew we were dangerous, but they hoped we were less dangerous than the Krolathi. Now we've proven we can fight. If we leave, what message does that send? That we're not interested in getting involved in galactic politics, Lisa suggested. Or that we only help when it's convenient, Danny countered. That we're exactly the selfish predators they feared we were. Amy spoke up quietly, then asked me something before I left their ship. He wanted to know if humans have a concept of honor. I told him yes. He said that in Venari culture, if you save someone's life, you have a responsibility to them. Not a legal responsibility, but a moral one. You become connected. That's asking a lot, Lisa said. We saved one ship. That doesn't mean we have to save all of them, doesn't it? Jake asked. He turned to face his officers. Think about what we represent. We're the first military force in this region of space that can stand up to the Krolathi. If we leave, the hunting continues. The assembly collapses. Thousands more die. But if we stay, even for a little while, we could change the outcome. Sir, we're not authorized to start a war with an alien species, Lisa said. That's a decision for Earth's government, not for us. We're not starting a war. The war already started. We're just choosing which side we're on. Jake sat back down at his desk. Lisa, I understand your concerns. You're absolutely right that this should be a government decision, but we're here now and people are dying. Sometimes you have to make the hard choice and deal with the consequences later. He tapped his communication panel. Valiant to all fleet vessels. All captains report to Conference Room 1 in 30 minutes. After his officers left, Jake sat alone in his ready room. He thought about the choice he was about to make. Earth Command would be angry. There would probably be an inquiry. He might lose his command. But he also thought about the Venari crew, frightened and injured, waiting for predators to finish them off. He thought about the other assembly ships out there, civilians who had done nothing wrong except exist in a dangerous universe. And he thought about what it meant to be human, to be the species that evolved by protecting each other instead of just surviving alone. 30 minutes later, the conference room was full. All 7 captains of the human fleet were present, either in person or by video link. Jake stood at the head of the table. I'm going to be direct, Jake said. Earth Command ordered us to return home. However, I've received intelligence about the situation in this region of space that changes things. There are multiple assembly civilian vessels in immediate danger from Krolathi attack. We have the capability to help them. The question is whether we should. Captain Nicole Harper of the destroyer Washington spoke first. Captain Morrison, are you suggesting we disobey orders? I'm suggesting we interpret our orders in light of new information, Jake replied. Our mission is to respond to distress calls and protect Earth's interests. Helping the Assembly protects Earth's interests by establishing us as reliable allies instead of dangerous unknowns. Or it drags us into a war that isn't ours, Captain Ryan Bell of the cruiser Freedom said. The war is already happening whether we participate or not, Danny Price interjected. The question is what happens to Earth's reputation. Do we become the species that helps or the species that only cares about itself? There's also a practical consideration, Amy added. If the assembly collapses, there will be a power vacuum in this region of space. Something will fill that vacuum. Do we want it to be the Krolathi, or do we want to have influence over what comes next? The captains discussed and debated for an hour. Some agreed with Jake immediately. Others needed convincing. But slowly a consensus emerged. Captain Nicole Harper summed it up. If we do this, we do it properly. Not a police action or a quick rescue. We commit to clearing this entire region of Krolathi packs. We make it safe for assembly shipping. We show the galaxy that when humans make a promise, we keep it. That could take weeks, someone said. Then it takes weeks, Nicole replied. We signed up to protect people. The fact that these people are aliens doesn't change that. Jake looked around the table and saw agreement on every face. These were good officers, good people. They understood what was right, even if it meant going against orders. All right, Jake said. Here's what we're going to do. We split the fleet into 3 task forces. Each force will patrol a section of this region and respond to any distress calls. We hunt the Krolathi, we protect civilians, and we make this space safe again. What about Earth Command? Lisa asked. I'll send a full report explaining our actions and taking complete responsibility, Jake said. If there are consequences, they fall on me, not on any of you. But I believe when Earth's government sees what we accomplish here, they'll understand why we did it. The meeting broke up and the captains returned to their ships to brief their crews. Jake went back to his ready room and started composing his message to Admiral Kate Sullivan. As he wrote, he realized that this was a turning point. Not just for him, but for all of humanity. This was the moment when humans stopped being afraid of the galaxy and started engaging with it. The Deathworlders weren't hiding on their dangerous planet anymore. They were out in space and they were ready to make a difference. He finished his report and sent it. Then he called the bridge. Lisa, set course for the nearest reported Krolathi pack. Maximum speed. It's time to go hunting. 3 weeks passed and the human fleet operated continuously in assembly space. During that time, they encountered the Krolathi 17 times and won every engagement. Captain Jake Morrison kept detailed logs of each battle, noting tactics and weaknesses in the Krolathi fighting style. The pattern was always similar. The Krolathi relied on speed and numbers, swarming their targets and overwhelming defenses through persistence. Against assembly ships with weak weapons and defensive mindsets, this worked perfectly. Against human warships with military-grade weapons and aggressive tactics, the Krolathi were outmatched. Jake stood on the bridge of the Valiant, reviewing reports from the other task forces. Captain Nicole Harper's group had just finished clearing a major trade route of Krolathi presence. Captain Ryan Bell's force had intercepted and destroyed 2 large hunting packs near an assembly colony. Every human ship was performing beyond expectations. Captain, incoming transmission from Earth, Lisa Grant announced. It's Admiral Sullivan. She marked it urgent. Jake had been expecting this. 3 weeks with no word from Earth Command had been surprising. Now the response was here, and Jake suspected it would not be pleasant. Put her through. My ready room, private channel. Jake walked to his ready room and activated the secure communication system. Admiral Kate Sullivan's face appeared on the screen. She looked tired, and Jake could not read her expression. Admiral, Jake said formally, I assume you received my reports. All of them, Kate replied. 17 battles. 5 assembly civilian vessels rescued. Multiple Krolathi packs destroyed or driven off. You've been busy, Captain. Yes, ma'am. I take full responsibility for exceeding my authority. My crew followed my orders. Kate was quiet for a moment. Then she did something unexpected. She smiled. Jake, do you have any idea what's happening on Earth right now? I assume there are disciplinary hearings being scheduled for me. Quite the opposite. You're a hero. The whole fleet is. When word got out about what you were doing out there, the public response was overwhelming. People are proud. They're saying things like, this is what humanity should be, and finally we're making a difference in the galaxy. The politicians had to respond to public opinion. Jake blinked in surprise. So I'm not being court-martialed? Not even close. In fact, I'm here to inform you that your mission has been officially authorized retroactively. Earth's government has declared that protecting assembly civilians from the Krolathi is in humanity's strategic interest. You're no longer operating outside orders. You're the tip of the spear for Earth's first major galactic initiative. Jake sat down heavily. I don't know what to say, Admiral. Say you'll keep doing what you're doing, Kate replied. But there's more. The Galactic Assembly has formally requested a meeting with Earth's representatives. They want to discuss an alliance. Jake, you've opened a door that's been closed for 80 years. Humanity is finally being invited to join the galactic community. Because we proved we could fight. Because you proved you would fight for others, Kate corrected. The Assembly is desperate. They need protection, and you showed them that humans can provide it. But they also saw that you didn't demand anything in return. You just helped. That matters to them. Jake thought about Then and the Venery crew. He thought about the other assembly species they had rescued over the past weeks. All of them had been surprised that humans helped without asking for payment or territory. What happens now? Jake asked. Earth is sending diplomatic teams and military reinforcements. Within 2 months, we'll have a full battle fleet in assembly space. Your job is to hold the line until they arrive. Can you do that? Yes, ma'am. We can do that. Good. And Jake, one more thing. High Command is promoting you to Admiral. You'll be in charge of all human military operations in this region. Congratulations. After the call ended, Jake sat in his ready room for several minutes, processing everything. He had expected punishment and received promotion instead. The mission he thought might end his career had instead made him a key figure in humanity's expansion into the galaxy. A knock on the door brought him back to the present. Come in. Amy Carter entered, carrying her ever-present datapad. Captain, sorry to interrupt. I have some interesting information from the assembly database. I'm listening. And Amy, it's Admiral now, apparently. Amy's eyes widened. Congratulations, sir. That's wonderful. She sat down and pulled up information on her datapad.
I've been analyzing communication intercepts from the Kralathi.
The translation is rough, but we're starting to understand their language. What have you learned? They're confused. The Kralathi have a very simple worldview. There are hunters and there is prey. Every species they've encountered has been prey. They hunt, the prey runs, the Kralathi win. That's how their universe works. Until they met us. Exactly. The Kralathi don't have a concept for what we are. We're clearly predators based on our behavior, but we're protecting prey species. In their understanding of the universe, that doesn't make sense. Predators don't protect prey. Predators eat prey. Jake leaned back in his chair. So we're confusing them. More than that, we're scaring them. The Kralathi have been dominant in this region because they were the only predators. Now there's another predator, one that's better at hunting than they are, and this predator is allied with the prey. The Kralathi are starting to retreat. Good, let them retreat all the way back to wherever they came from. Amy hesitated. There's something else, sir. The assembly has been talking about us. Their word for us translates roughly as the guardians from the death world. They're starting to see us not as dangerous monsters, but as dangerous protectors. It's a significant shift in perception. Does that change anything for us? It might. The assembly operates on reputation and trust. If they start seeing humans as reliable allies, it opens up enormous opportunities. Trade, technology exchange, cultural sharing. We could learn so much from them and they from us. Jake thought about the implications. Humanity had been alone in the universe for so long. Even after discovering the assembly existed, Earth had been isolated by fear. Now that isolation was ending, and the future looked very different. Set up a meeting with Then, Jake said. I want to discuss long-term arrangements for protecting assembly space. If we're going to do this, we should do it right. Over the next few days, the human fleet continued their patrols while Jake worked with Then and other assembly representatives to establish formal protocols. The discussions were sometimes difficult because the two sides thought about things so differently. The assembly wanted detailed contracts specifying exactly what humans would do and what compensation they would receive. Jake kept trying to explain that humans did not need formal contracts to do the right thing. Eventually, they compromised. There would be an agreement, but it would be based on friendship and mutual benefit rather than rigid rules. During one meeting, Then asked Jake a question that made him think deeply about what humanity was becoming. Admiral Morrison, your species has great military power. You could demand whatever you want from the assembly, and we could not refuse. Why do you not do this? Jake considered his answer carefully. Because that's not who we are. Yes, humans are predators. Yes, we're good at fighting. But we're also social. We build communities. We create rules about fairness. We believe that power should be used to protect, not to dominate. This is unique in the galaxy, Then said. The assembly species are not violent because we are weak. We could not be violent even if we wanted to be. But humans are strong and choose not to use that strength for conquest. This is why we trust you. We want to earn that trust, Jake replied. We want to prove that Earth can be a good neighbor, not just a dangerous one. News of the human fleet's success spread throughout assembly space. More species began reaching out, asking for protection or offering information about Kralathi movements. The initial fear of humans began to fade, replaced by cautious optimism. Lieutenant Commander Lisa Grant brought Jake a summary of Assembly public opinion. "Sir, you should see this. It's fascinating. The Assembly has social networks similar to Earth's internet. Civilians are posting about the human fleet. Most of it is positive." Jake read through the translated posts. Many expressed gratitude for human intervention. Some were still nervous about humans but acknowledged they were being helpful. A few posts from Assembly military personnel expressed admiration for human tactics and asked if Earth would consider training programs. "They're starting to see us as people, not just dangerous predators," Lisa observed. "That's good. The more they know about us, the less they'll fear us." A priority alert interrupted their conversation. Commander Greg Palmer's voice came over the intercom. "Admiral to the bridge. We have multiple distress calls. It looks like a major Kralathi offensive." Jake and Lisa rushed to the bridge. The tactical display showed a coordinated attack across 3 different locations simultaneously. Kralathi packs were hitting assembly colonies and trade vessels in a pattern that suggested organization and planning. "They're adapting," Danny Price said grimly. "The Kralathi figured out that we can't be everywhere at once. They're attacking multiple targets to split our forces." Jake studied the display. The human fleet had 7 ships, but the